Joining us now is the Superintendent of Oakland Schools, Dr. Wanda Cook-Robinson. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you.
Now, it's good to have you here. I don't think we've had you on the program yet. And it seems like, at least at the very beginning, all we ever talked about when this virus broke out was education. Because I got to tell you, our schools, when this thing first kicked in, our schools had very little warning. And they are the epicenter of our communities. Not only did they figure out how to help educate kids from home, but they also fed a lot of people and did a lot of other things to maintain. And, and that was right at the beginning when it was some of the hardest days. So I know how great our school districts are around Oakland County, but I just wanted to share that with you. Your thoughts about what they did at the very beginning?
Well, I tell you, this pandemic has really thrown all of us for a loop. But I'm so proud of the teachers, parents, administrators, and community members who have stepped up to work with us. It takes a village to educate a child, and the village in Oakland County has really stepped up, including Oakland County government, Oakland County schools. Everyone that I have called, all I have to say is that I'm having this issue. Could you help me? I called the Board of County Commissioners, our chairperson, Dave, and I said, Dave, I'm in need. And he'll say, what can I do? So it's really been good the way that the Oakland County community has come together to support school districts to help us to continue to deliver education during this time.
It doesn't mitigate the challenges, though, that we have confronted and that we still have ahead of us. But it was really fantastic to see the schools pivot so well. And I know a lot of those use countywide resources for their IT. And it seemed like they were not in every district, but in a lot of districts, it seemed like they did a really good job continuing on with the school year the very best they could. And a lot of students that probably had never thought about going to school every day at home with mom and dad, they did that, and it wasn't perfect, but it worked.
Absolutely. And the first thing we did was to look at connectivity across the state and across the county and start working with those districts that needed devices. We had to get devices in the hands of every school-age child. And United Way and the Skillman Foundation were very helpful in helping us to do that. In addition, connectivity in the home, so that students could continue to work. And in some districts, in some areas, we are still working on that connectivity. But for the majority of districts in Oakland County, they are connected, the students have devices, and they are working. At the intermediate school district, we are working with the districts to help identify appropriate platforms and delivery modes for those students. The one thing I can tell you about Oakland County is one size does not fit all. And so what we've had to do is to look at the protocols, look at the assumptions, look at the tools, and then support districts as they build their individual models of educational delivery during this crisis to support their students.
Well, each of the school districts, they certainly have their own unique characteristics and initiatives, yes. But aren't there things that you can do at Oakland schools on a countywide level, especially if we're going more virtual, to be of some assistance to them and help them with some of those options?
Oh, absolutely. And since this pandemic has started, the Oakland County Superintendents Association, which is an association across the county where every superintendent belongs, we have had ongoing task force. We started with a task force looking at the virtual platforms, looking at connectivity, looking at policy, looking at grades, looking at graduation, looking at school the first 55 days when the governor shut us down to June 30th, and then what are we going to do in reopening in the fall? Those task forces have been ongoing so that we can continuously identify resources and support. But Scott, Dave, I need to share with you, there's one thing that we have to remember about this pandemic. First and foremost, it is a health crisis. So we've had to look to the health department for guidance and leadership. We're educators, not health professionals. So we needed that. So we partnered with the Oakland County Health Department to create a list of assumptions to start building our model on. Because if we're going to start school, there are a number of guidelines that we're going to have to follow. And our number one priority right now, Dave, is reopening schools in the fall. If the Michigan economy is going to reopen, then parents got to go back to work. They're going to have to give up their teaching jobs that they've had over the last several weeks, and they got to go back to their real jobs or their other jobs. To do that, they're going to need child care for children who are 0 to 4 years old, and children who are 5 to 17, 18, we've got to get back in school. And that is our current focus right now.
Well, you got a good partner, Dr. Faust. We've had him on the air a number of times, and good to see that you're partnering with the Oakland County Health Department. As we take a look at the fall, and we've talked to a lot of the superintendents and other folks involved in education here over the past couple of months. As you go back to fall, it's going to be different. But tell us what you think. Are we going to see students in buildings this fall? And anything you can do to share us what you see inside of your crystal ball?
Yes. First, let me say schools will reopen in the fall in Oakland County. And I meet with the Oakland County superintendents weekly. We have what we call an Oakland County Superintendents Connect every Thursday. And our plan is to reopen schools. We're trying to figure out the how. Last week, I participated in a press conference with Dave Coulter, our county executive. We made a request to the county to get nursing support. The county and the Board of Commissioners has agreed that they will provide 68 nurses for Oakland County schools, and that includes our public service academies. So we are in the process now of working on criteria to distribute those 68 nurses. So when we open school in the fall, there will be minimally one nurse assigned to every single school district, and in some cases two, depending on that criteria. They are going to help us create a safe, healthy environment for students to return. So that's most important.
Well, yeah, and I missed that press conference. I'm really glad you mentioned that. Part of that has got to be testing. So do you want to implement some kind of a testing program for students? And given that, the students are, they're under 18, so it's got to be with cooperation of their parents. But don't you have to have some kind of a testing model as well to get students back in the building?
Well, our health professionals, and we're dealing with Leanne Stafford, who has been outstanding, the county health director, is sharing that we may want to do temperature taking if districts, and again, remember, this is a district decision. So if districts decide that they want to do testing, there will be guidance to do that. But right now, I know I can tell you from my own organization for Oakland Schools, we will be looking at screening and temperature taking.
All right, and that's the same thing that businesses are doing. That model seems to be working pretty good. And in our studios, in our offices, everyone's got to check in and follow the guidelines that have been set up by the state and the county to reopen our businesses. So you see something similar to that for schools then?
Yes. And as we work through this, and we are working diligently to figure out what this looks like in each district's vision for reopening schools. But I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the funding crisis that's going to impact that. We're going to build models to reopen schools, but it's going to take more funding than what we have currently. Several weeks ago at the estimating conference, it was shared with educators that for this year, we could possibly be looking at a $1.25 billion cut. That's this year. Now this year, until June 30th, we've already allocated our funds. So if those cuts come now, we're in shortfall because some districts have already spent those dollars. As we look to July 1, they have shared with us that we could possibly be looking at a $1.1 billion shortfall. And at the same time, we're building models to reopen schools that we know will cost more dollars. Let me give you an example. A district that has about 3,600 kids, not a really large district, but just that size, about 3,600. They're going to have hand sanitizers, personal protection equipment. These are things that were never in the education budget before. For a district that size, for hand sanitizer for the year could cost as much as $44,000. If we're going to transport kids to school on buses, our current buses hold 66 to 77 students. social distancing, we're going to have to cut that number way down, which means we need additional bus runs, additional bus drivers, possibly additional buses, and each bus must be sanitized in between each run. If we're going to have gloves for custodial staff, just for a district that size, we're looking at about $1,500. You know, if you're looking at disposable masks for a school district that size, again, you're looking at about $46,000. So we're going to need the state and the feds to step it up and to help us if we're going to be able to reopen schools safely. We're building the models, but it's going to take more.
Yeah, and it's, it's a challenge. Dr. Wanda Cook-Robinson joining us. She is the superintendent of Oakland Schools. We only have a minute or two left, but dollars are tight here in the state of Michigan too. So we know it's a challenge, and if the federal government doesn't step in, it's going to be tough. And and what are districts to do? They've got to keep operating, and they're the biggest expense. Help me here, but I assume the biggest expense at most school districts in Oakland County is staff.
Yes. When you look at a district, even a district of about 5,000, 75 to 80% of the budget is in salary and benefits and staff. And if we're going to do a social distancing model, depending on the schedule that the district decides, you may need double the teachers that you have, or double the facilities. All of that has a price tag to it. It's doable, but we need help.
Well, you definitely need help, and we really hope schools here in Michigan and in Oakland County in particular and across the country get the help from the federal government, because if it's not there, I have no idea where that money's coming from. And we are looking at a really challenging year, and I appreciate it, Superintendent, you're talking about, because I didn't realize this, talking about the challenges that districts have even with this budget here this year. So I talked to your friend, Representative Brenda Carter, a couple of minutes ago. Cool to hear you guys are sorority sisters and really good friends. She said she's putting together a town hall. I just want to let you know we're all in. If we would love to broadcast that town hall. And I just want to let you know one of the great things that's been happening with your schools here in Oakland County is this megacast. Yes, my team is working on it, but we couldn't do it without the radio station in West Bloomfield that is licensed to the West Bloomfield School District, the radio station in Bloomfield Hills that is licensed to the Bloomfield Hills School District, and the radio station in Auburn Hills that is licensed to the Auburn Hills School District. So we've taken these radio stations, these 3 school radio stations in Oakland County, and brought them all together to be able to communicate with the people. So it's a really beautiful thing, and I just want to thank those superintendents who've made that happen. It's Dr. Schwartz and Dr. Hill and Pat Watson. I mean, there's so many great stories.
But we want to thank you for highlighting these issues and giving the support that you have, because it's important that we help our community understand the issues that we're facing as we work to reopen schools. So thank you and your staff.
Well, thank you very much, and we'll keep in touch with your office and hopefully have you on more often. And it is what it is, but there's still time to get help from the state and the federal government, and certainly good opportunity to be talking about it. And if that town hall comes together, which I'm sure it will, we definitely want to be a part of it with you. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
All right, she is Dr. Wanda Cook-Robinson, the superintendent of Oakland Schools.